Welcome back to the channel. I hope you're having a great day. And from the title of the video, you could tell it's going to be an interesting video today. It's also going to be probably the shortest video in the series. Um, we actually wanted to do this actual segment on universal basic income in relation to increases in housing, right? We're going to do that in the next upcoming video. And for some reason, I think this idea was fresh uh, in our minds. I don't know, maybe because the day was a religious day for some. And the topic came up universal basic income. Is it relational to the mark of the beast, the 666, and government control UBI by the government, and many of these conspiracy theories that go into that and things of that nature. So when we're discussing universal basic income, and I think that's why this is going to be kind of short here. We just try to look at the data and keep it as factual as we possibly can. And so when we go into areas like this, of course, it's going to leave a lot of unanswered questions. There's a lot of information we won't be able to gather about this, but we're going to just touch on a little bit just to see if there's anything there we should be concerned about. And especially when you're talking about government control, because I think it's a valid argument there. But for people who are in certain religious organizations who maybe believe in these type ideologies or as part of their faith or something like that, we by no means are trying to be counter to that in a way that we offend these people in some way. So that's not our intentions at all. Just from a standpoint, an economic standpoint, we're trying to understand what this means. In terms like market of the beast, I think when we're referring to it, we're more looking at government control more so than everything, but it's popping up. Let's talk about it. So, as you can see, the internet, there are articles about it. It's universal basic income may usher in the market of bees. How long until the market of bees? Universal basic income in the market of bees. Here at TSP Talks, Pope prepares for the market of bees with the consideration of universal basic income. So obviously this is a topic, and people are concerned about it. So I don't know. Let's look at Reddit here. What is Reddit saying about it? Let's first start with uh, does it symbolize the mark of the beast? So, well, first of all, I have studied, many religions. However, I'm not a Bible scholar, right? I'm not a theologian, but I have studied it quite in detail. And I can tell you this part about it, that when it speaks to the mark of the beast, and they're talking about 666, uh, from what I understood in my studies, as far as I got, was that at the time the Bible was written, especially during the period right after Jesus' death, probably speaking around between the first century to the third century. You get to the third century and the Council of Nicaea, which actually starts to canonize the books of the Bible and so on. The 666, uh, referring to the Antichrist, many biblical theologians believe was a reference to the Emperor Nero. And many of y'all probably remember a great deal of the Christian persecution under the Emperor Nero. Um, and when the Bible was being written during that time, you have to keep in mind that the way these governments work was it wasn't a matter of freedom of religion. It wasn't any freedom of speech. So you couldn't write. So a lot of the text that was written in the Bible, some theologians believe it was coded. So it was a way to talk about Nero without Nero and the powers that be knowing that this was actually referencing him, because obviously if it was found out that it was directed at Nero, then not only would all of the Bibles probably be burned, but they of course the Christians would be persecuted, probably executed on the spot or something like that, right? So there are many interpretations today. These ideas in scriptures being relative to the day. Uh, but if you get beyond that point, and you don't go with that the theologians' idea of what the 666 was even referring to, and you get up to today, and we start to get into the ideas like the different chips, identification chips, RFID chips, and stuff like that. That was kind of becoming a big, idea of concern. Or when some years ago, when I think some people started to get them, or they would talk about getting them. That I forgot the video was running, but that would concern many, especially if you're a religious person or something like that. So let's just look at this is on the Reddit thread talking about it, and I found this kind of interesting. What this article writer wrote, Will Shetterly. He says basic income does have a connection to Christian prediction, but it's not about the mark of the beast. It's about the poor inheriting the earth, right? The poor shall inherit the earth, right? In the I don't know, maybe that was the book of Mark. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe it was words from Jesus Christ. Again, we can only go so far into the realm of prophecy and interpretation, because there can be so many. But we can say, looking at the state of affairs as universal basic income relates to poor people, right? So in a situation where the state wants to control people and hurt citizens, right? Generally, they can do so easier by keeping the boots on their neck to a certain degree. So I wouldn't feel it was advantageous to the state to make everybody healthy. All right, in this train of thought about government powers represented by these, let's say, evil forces, evil spirits, aiding these people, and in some cases, it can be presented how certain holy texts and scriptures are written, that it can be a case where there is a great amount of peace, and there is a great amount of prosperity, and it is kind of this confusion and quiet before the storm, right? Where the Antichrist is championed by the world, and seeing this is all seen as a good thing. So it's very interesting, and we can kind of see where the direction that people are going in with that, or where they're drawing the dots. But again, looking at people becoming healthier in the system where they can think better, they can react better, I would think would make them more hard to handle later by these forces, as it were, right? As I say, you don't want to make your society too healthy. The more healthier they can become a little bit more difficult to control in a sense as well, on the flip side, because then you've basically given them the tools to think better. When the reality of the situation is, struggling families at home that are trying to send their kids off to be educated or education in general uh, on a empty belly, it's very hard to have a sharp mind, right? So giving the people food so they can think and get better, I would think it's kind of working against that agenda. So again, I could be wrong. I'm not a biblical scholar, but then getting back to the control mechanisms of universal basic income, which is what a lot of people allude to, in this particular, idea, is that the universal basic income would be a measure of control over people because their livelihood would depend on the universal basic income. But is that true? Is that the case? Is it is universal basic income even presented as a way that people are going to fully depend on it? And I think this is another, I think maybe not a proper way to think of universal basic income in that the idea is, in some people's mind is that everybody just stops working and they're kind of waiting on the government or whoever's controlling the universal basic income to feed them, to provide them the sustenance and needs they have, right? But I haven't really encountered a universal basic income project that even works like that, right? You know, um, I think the proper term for many universal basic income projects, or the countless dozens I've come in contact with and studied, I think a more of a proper idea is supplemental income, right? As to say that these people aren't per se just going to be waiting on universal basic income. In fact, universal, the idea, the key word there, universal, means everybody gets it. So you're going to have rich people getting it too. Are they going to be dependent on the government for universal basic income? you know, there are so many types of universal basic income. Which one would they be underlying as well as the one that's government controlled and that's the mark of the beast? What, which one would that be? And if there is such a one that exists, could you point to it and show us some specific details as to why it fits into that? Because if it's supplemental income, society is still moving on. People are still going to work every day. The majority of people's livelihoods is probably still being covered by their jobs and covered by their pursuits of prosperity, right? And whereas this additional income is maybe helping people get over the hump to a degree or stimulating the economy, it probably still isn't proper to determine that it will be enough to hold citizens at bay to the point you can control them. 1,000 bucks a month probably is not going to be enough to do that, right? 1,000 bucks a month is uh, probably realistically for the majority of people not enough to have any measure of a life that could be sustained. It would be very difficult. It'd be very tight. And if somebody could sustain themselves on $1,000 per month, I'm sure that it wouldn't leave much room for, anything else. Um, so the idea that it would curb the desire for people to want more, for people to, try to seek more and people to need more, right? I don't know if that works right. I can kind of see that scenario in a more socialist type scenario where you're maybe in a country with a dictator and he just issues out this universal basic income every month, and it's enough for the people in that nation to survive off and pretty much live off. So that would be a more of a direct socialist idea of universal basic income, where many of the universal basic income ideas being presented in modern day are more along the lines of capitalism that doesn't start at zero, right? So that's like the one champion in the idea of Andrew Yang, where hey, everybody's getting this thing, but you know, sure, everybody's not starting, off at zero. Everybody has a starting point, um, to boost them. But at the end of the day, as they go through these systems, they're still earning, they're still producing, they're still incentivized to gain more. And we've covered it I think a lot of that idea in our video we did, the one before last or something like that, about does universal basic income create any laziness? Does it make people lazy? Right. So if universal basic income is um, this evil thing, um, that's government control, well, I would think that the government would probably need to implement more uh, key areas of the policy. There will be certain need to be certain things put in place that I think would be a little bit more concentrated and extreme to support, the ideas like it's going to be to the point where people can't function without universal basic income. I don't think it's going to be that people can't function without universal basic income or can't buy anything without universal basic income. I think that people are going to carry on pretty much like they do now, but then they're going to still have all of the, many of the setbacks they have now, many of the challenges they have now, right? But I don't necessarily see that is going to pan out to like, oh, well, we've, if we don't receive universal basic income, our life stops. There are no jobs, there's no nothing. And such a scenario could exist like that, but we would have to look specifically at examples of that, and what that universal basic income policy is saying. Is this is just purely socialist like kind of version? Because universal basic income is not a socialist policy. As we've covered in prior videos, universal basic income has been championed more so by conservatives and conservative policies economically, I think, than even the liberal policies have, right? So that's certainly something we should consider in all of this. So government control over universal basic income, um, to the point where it's controlling the citizen. It's able to stop the payments out and go, hey, you fall in line or you don't get it. Yeah, I mean, those type things exist, that if it's a government run program, government obviously gets to make rules on how that's enforced. Right. And I think one of the bigger places that's done, and it's not for the better, right? Uh, but the amount of good that can come of that and health that can come of that, it does make you question, are we looking at UBI in the right scope? Is it what they're talking about in these prophecies? It doesn't really fit the bill, or are they talking about something completely different? So something to think about. I'd like to hear you guys' opinions about it. I happen to think people being healthier and getting health delivered to them, and UBI being treated like supplemental income, and not take care of your life forever income, kind of makes sense to me. But anyway, I'd love to hear you guys' opinions about it. Don't forget to join our project, bitcoinmyk.com. I usually take you over there on the site, but I'm just going to leave a link in the description today. And what you can do is you can sign up, check out the site. You can start earning free money through a cryptocurrency today for doing nothing but joining our site. And you can start to receive it every month. Real spendable money you can cash out. So should be a lot of fun. Make sure you check it out. See if you like it. The bitcoinmyk.com project, universal basic income over the blockchain. But that's all I want to say in this video. If you like content like this, don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, take care.